Talk to Me by Scott Weedman. She wakes and dread seeps back into her like tide, cold and inevitable. Please talk to me, she thinks. Let it be today. Across the bedroom, the windowsill glows a thin morning gray beneath the closed shutter, and the room is dark and cool and smells vaguely of disinfectant. She must have cleaned for him. He loves a clean place. Or rather, he loves watching her clean. Naked cleaning, they call it. There's also naked dinner, naked TV, though never during his game shows. And on one notable occasion, in the driveway of an Airbnb in Lake Tahoe, naked car washing. They almost always lead to lovemaking, these events. Had she rinsed dinner plates or tossed his stained coveralls into the washing machine with nothing on, save an apron, and he'd enveloped her and they'd been together? She can't remember. All has become a fog since he stopped talking to her. She turns toward him under the thin coverlet. She's cold, freezing in fact. She will get him a nice thick blanket soon. Perhaps one of those Ugg types, one they will never want to come out from under, she hopes, and then nestles timidly into his back. It's a broad back, a former rugby player's, one she never hesitated to hop onto during the frenetic 180 seconds between classes in high school, during their time in college where he'd received an athletic scholarship and she'd followed unhesitatingly, or when they finally closed on their home and he was literally being handed the keys and she was out of her mind happy. He stirs but does not move away. A good sign. What's wrong? She whispers into the nape of his neck, and this time he does react. He stammers. It's hollow and pained and seems to come from a million miles away. Nightmares, so many lately. It's okay. She can't remember the last time he spoke to her. And he's such a talker, especially after a drink or two. A small memory unfolds, bright and vivid. The two of them driving the Hannah Highway in some ridiculously expensive rental. Top down, sun and wind and hair everywhere. She with an uncorked bottle of red from the winery atop the mountain, secreted in a brown paper bag. Him grinning, hand high on her tanned leg, saying, "Oh, that'll throw the cops way off." She recalls the fullness of his voice, its tenor, his monologues, his contagious laugh, his pausing of CNN or Fox, and contesting what is being posited and then turning and providing unsolicited counterpoints, elucidations, extrapolations, and her complete acceptance because in those moments she is awash in his true, if not closeted, intellectual shine. She's sure her husband of 2 joyous years is the only automobile mechanic alive who reads 2 books a week, watches Jeopardy, America Says, Chain Reaction, and Idiot Test, his new favorite, with near fanatic intensity, and who actually incorporated the word anti-establishmentarianism into the first ever conversation with her asshole parents and made it not awkward. God, how she loves him. She shouts, "So talk to me now, damn it." Tears come. They burn like ice water in her eyes and down her cheeks. She sits up gingerly, careful not to wake him. Always a concern, this, and wipes her face. Well, maybe that's part of this mess, my silly deference to him. And on the heels of that, Christ, I'm becoming my mother. But that's not entirely true. Or fair, she admits to herself in the dark. Barbara Montgomery feared Donald Montgomery, and with cause. And so did she, all the way up to his thunderclap heart attack in a CVS parking lot that put an abrupt, vacuous end to the fake happy bullshit. No, her mother couldn't help herself, not then, not without the sort of reprisals that keep one awake at night. She doesn't fear this man next to her, not that way. He'd no sooner hurt her than he would his own mother, or overachieving younger sister for that matter, But his hasty shutting off to her, as if she no longer existed, was somehow worse, wasn't it? Hadn't she read an article recently in one of those women's interest mags, Elle or Marie Claire, which stated that a man who stops communicating is a man who, at the bottom of things, wants out? Oh, dear God, no. Please, no. No one deserves this. We love each other. Of course we do. Then stop this. She gets out of bed then, and not like some ninny either. She tosses the feeble coverlet aside, hops out, stands at the foot of the bed, and crosses her arms. "Robert Dovin," she says to the corseted figure before her. "I just pressed the pause button, and you'd better start explaining yourself. Talk to me. Tell me what the matter is. Tell me what's happened." Her voice is strident in the quiet, dim room. "I won't put up with this any longer, Robert." Robert? Robert! There is a tinny popping sound then, and she is suddenly backlit from what she intuits are the shutters, somehow unhinging themselves from across the room. Her shadow is abrupt and wraith-like over his bound figure, causing her to start. Something hisses behind her. She spins. The big window is still very much shuttered. When did they replace shutters with drapes? And a small flat-screen TV glows brightly high on the opposite wall. Snow. Just TV snow. Black lines flicker and disappear, flicker and disappear.
"This is KBAT.
The television suddenly blurts, and she spooks again.
News that's new to you."
An up-tempo, no-nonsense melody follows. The TV snow and jittery black lines fade. She watches, hugging herself, sure that the leathery voice of a Tom Brokaw or a Dan Rather will break in any moment. Instead, a newswoman in a sleeveless blue top and mottled hair materializes behind a glass desk. She is also no-nonsense, this reporter. But there's more to her, something solemn and impending.
"We come to you tonight with tragic news from the beautiful island of Maui in the Hawaiian archipelago."
"Maggie."
For the third time in as many minutes, breath catches in her throat. She turns and sees her husband staring up at her. Under the wan shelf of his brow, his eyes are bloodshot marbles in the quicksilver light. "Bobby, yes, it's me, sweetie, Maggie. I love you so much, so much. Talk to me, sweetie. I love—"
"A horrendous single-car accident on the otherwise tranquil and historic road to Hana."
"No. Mag. I'm sorry."
"Bobby, love, no, please don't be. I thought you were mad at me. I thought that I'd done something."
The rented Ferrari 308 GTS, popularized by the 80s-era TV crime series Magnum P.I., careened 60 feet down an embankment into one of the picturesque pools that are a tourist.
"No. Oh, God, Mag."
Without warning, her body heaves, and a squelching, gargling sound comes from deep within her. She coughs, retches, and vomits up something long and mossy and cold. It hangs from her mouth like a black tongue. She pulls and yanks, but it is long, impossibly so, and she is working hand over fist like some minstrel clown in a dark story, a Bradbury story, something wicked.
At this time, authorities believe alcohol may have played a role in the ill-fated road trip.
She staggers back against the wall. A swamp reed swings from her outstretched hand. She looks at her husband, who she realizes is not looking at her, but at the TV screen above her. Oh dear God, was he ever looking at me? Weakly, wincing in bright, clear pain, and never taking his eyes off the screen, Robert Dovin props himself shakily on one elbow. And now she can see, neck brace under the chin, twisted leg enclosed in a cage, rods penetrating purple skin, and bandages everywhere the color of rust. Swollen lips part feebly, wires crisscross fragmented teeth.
"Oh, Maggie. Please, no. I love all my phone. Don't be there.
Before he can finish, her mouth snaps open, and a torrent of gritty, ice-cold water jets forth, gallons upon gallons, spanning the room, splashing up against the large door with its industrial hinges and square-framed window, and settling into shimmery pools on the pea-green linoleum floor.
Officials report 2 occupants were in the vehicle at the time of the accident, but tragically, only one survived.
Of course, it's linoleum, she thinks detachedly. We never replaced the shutters either, and that blanket's an ineffectual piece of crap because...
An automobile mechanic from California on vacation with...
We're not home at all. We're in a hospital room on an island in the Central Pacific, or at least half of us is.
The passenger, who remains unidentified at this time, but is believed to be the spouse of the driver, did not survive. Back to you, Bob.
The last thing that occurs to her as that ethereal part begins its mystical undoing, and Robert Dovin, son to Linda and Peter, brother to Dr. Cassandra McFadden, M.D., and father to no one, cries his wife's name through his ruined mouth, is that her husband is, finally, talking to her again.